Welcome one and all again to the Gaming Codex, the show where I try to explain to you all the various terms used to describe games and the video games industry. Yes, all of them. We're going to be here a while. And today we're going to talk about that very popular acronym, DLC. Yes, downloadable content. The general definition of DLC is additional content created for a released video game. It is distributed through the internet by the game's official publisher. Downloadable content can be of several types, ranging from aesthetic outfits, changes to a new, extensive storyline, similar to an expansion pack. Let's take this definition bit by bit. Additional content, meaning it's more of the game. That's the core idea of DLC. It expands the game. It makes more of it. And because it's downloadable, it's distributed through the internet by the game's official publisher. That's an important bit because it can be created by a company that's not the original developer, but it's still official DLC because it has the same publisher. If it's not, well, it's not really official DLC, it's more like a mod. And it comes in many shapes and sizes. It can be something as humble as armor for a horse, or it can be something that brings an entirely new plotline into the game with characters, with lots of different things. Not to be confused with an expansion from which we have the implicit expectation that it will be big, that it will change things, that it will expand the game in many different ways. Or with add-on, which is sort of like I'll get to that in the add-on expansion show, probably next month. DLC can also be either free, like a lot of the stuff that CD Projekt did with The Witcher 2 and 3, or you can pay $15 for a goddamn map like in every Call of Duty game. Now, what is the popular definition of DLC? That would be stuff that was cut out of the game. The public tends to believe that DLC is something that used to be a part of the game that was developed alongside everything else but was just cut out of the game just so the company can make more profit. You tend to see this exemplified in pictures like the one with the Mona Lisa that keeps changing year after year and gets progressively more ridiculous. But that is not the I would say that that is not the reality of DLC, that developers work on DLC after they finish the base game, but there are numerous incidents of that not being true, most notably being DLC that is already on the disc. When DLC is on the disc, it means that it was done a long time ago. It was done at the same time as the rest of the game. If it's day one DLC that you have to download on day one, yeah, they could have worked on that in a month or so that they have available after the game is completed and it's already been sent to replicate and can be put on the disc. But when it's on the disc, like we've seen with Capcom or with 2K, you really can't sort of fault people for believing that DLC is something they cut out of the game and then sold separately. This tends to happen sometimes even with DLC that isn't already on a disc. They want DLC. For example, BioWare has the tendency to show us DLC 2 or 3 months before the game is out. A moment in which you kind of wonder, wait a minute, isn't this kind of fishy? Or they take out a really important character like the Prothean from Mass Effect 3 and make him day one DLC. When stuff like this happens, it is kind of hard to change people's minds that DLC isn't just about gouging the public for more money for stuff they've already bought. But companies that aren't completely evil do release actual DLC for their games that is either free or paid, that expands the game beyond the scope it had initially. For example, Crusader Kings 2. There's more DLC now than there is game. It has changed phenomenally since the release of the initial version. And yeah, some people may be tired because they're launching DLC constantly, and now if you want to get the entire game it costs you about $100, but they do tend to offer value with that DLC, and it's not something that's mandatory. For example, they don't sell the ending to Mass Effect 2 as a DLC, or they don't spontaneously decide that hey, maybe some platforms should not get the DLC that's kind of required if you understand the rest of the story, or you know, the ending of Prince of Persia. But for the most part, DLC itself is not an evil idea. It's just sometimes implemented by people with no concern for what the public may perceive as being evil. Now, what is the marketing definition of DLC? Well, that would be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Yes, since you realized you could sell people bread sliced for more money, there has not been something better than DLC. Gone are the days when you would have to create a large offering of content for the player, like an expansion or a sequel. No, launch a DLC, make money. Launch a map or two, get people to pay $15, you're in the money. Launch a hat, people will buy it. Launch a new mount. Launch a pony pet, people will buy it. Create a base game that's really nice, something that gets people hooked, and then just start pumping out that DLC, pumping it out quickly and more and more and more, and you will make a butt ton of money. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. Marketing loves DLC. If they could just sell DLC with no base game, well, that would be a wet dream come true. So closes another chapter in the Gaming Codex. Come back next time when we will talk about something new, something different, something more open. Goodbye.